Greetings, everyone. This is Pamela Nozi, host of the Leaders Out podcast. Today, I have a very special guest to you, a guy that I've known for at least 10 years. Been one of his
Yeah,
followers from his podcast, Global from Asia, since way back when, 2010, 2011, when I first went to, before going to Asia. Well, I went to Asia first in 2010 for my first mini retirement. And then in 2012, I went to Hong Kong and Guangzhou. And that's when I get really, really deep into e-commerce. And when you searched back then, anything to do with e-commerce, import-export, in Hong Kong and China, the first thing that will pop up was Michael Michelini. That's the person I'm talking to right here. And when I moved to China in 2015, I went there as a football coach. And then I got into e-commerce, attended this event, met there, and yeah, and got to know each other. We did things together, and over the years we got kept in touch. And now with his family is in Chiang Mai, Thailand. We met last year as well for Christmas. We had a beautiful Christmas together last year.
yeah, it
And
was amazing.
yeah, and here I am. I've been meaning to bring him on my podcast for a long time, but timing and finally the stars aligned. Here we are. This is going to be a very beautiful, heart-to-heart conversation. We're going to get not only dive into his business, is hosting another major e-commerce event very soon in Chiang Mai, but we're going to talk about that later. But what I do usually in my podcast is to get to have a look under the hood, so to speak, to see what's in your heart, to get to know who's Mike as a person, as a man, as a human being, first and foremost, before the businessman. Because if me and you, we don't connect as person to person, I don't care where we are, we're not going to talk, let alone do business. So this is what I do in my podcast. So anyways, without any further ado, Michael, brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy. It was a great. I really, yeah. I mean, your intro really hit home.
Thank you.
Actually, 10 years for the podcast. Yes, as of
Wow.
a couple days ago. Yeah,
How many episodes?
depends what you count as, because I had like a sub series I didn't put in a main track, but about 412
Holy,
shows
yeah.
as of right now. Maybe if you
Yeah.
count some other ones, maybe 450. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a guy that was one of the first guys that I started really following on podcast. And you notice that too. Once you start listening to someone after a few weeks, you tend to know the person, even though you've never met them, because you get to know the personality, sense of humor. So when we finally met, when was it? The first time we met was in 2016 in Shenzhen at one of the meetups before the Global from Asia.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was
Yeah, I
fun.
remember that. It was like a different world, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I feel like the world is a lot different since that.
Oh, yeah.
Those times were the funner times in China, I think. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if we're going that tangent, but staying on the positive, those times were
Yeah.
really fun.
You know, one
Those
of
are the
my
good times.
one of my biggest regrets for the past 10 years was not going to China earlier. The first time I went was back in 2012. And I stayed just for a week or two, and I came back to Canada. And now, in retrospect, I wish I had gone back there and got into Amazon FBA back in 2012, 2013. I would have been a millionaire,
Yeah, of course.
But anyways,
We all think that. Myself, of course.
I'll
I
get
mean,
into
I
Bitcoin
think
back then,
any of them, I know.
Anyways,
It's an insane world, but there's always opportunities, always. And
exactly.
you're doing amazing things now. I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you, man. It's great.
Thank you.
I'm on your
Appreciate that.
show, and you've been doing this 3 years, and it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. You're actually one of the inspiration on podcasting that really led me to get into podcasting. We did a podcast for a few weeks together. Remember that? A co-host about e-commerce.
Yeah, exactly. There was the coffee, and we had, yeah.
That's what gave me my first experience with that. But anyways, before we dive into all of that, for people who don't know you, tell us, who's Michael Michelini? We're going to talk about business and all that after, but as a man, as a person, as a human being, who's Michael?
I was just at another conference in Bangkok, and people says I'm the hardest working paid person they know.
Oh, yes.
I think it was back since, my father, he always wanted me to do more. Like, I did good grades in school, sports, jobs, Boy Scouts. It's always, I guess, I love to, but I feel like I'm more of a creator, more of a maybe internet artist. Actually, my middle name is Angelo. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think you mentioned that one or two times. Yes.
I sometimes mention it. I used to be more shy because when I was little, I got picked on for being like a Ninja Turtle, but my grandmother was an artist. That's how I got my name.
Wow. Michelangelo.
My dad just put Michelangelo. Yeah. So he, you know, they didn't put it as like my full first name. It was like Michael and then Angelo. So yeah, I just feel like maybe I should even use that more as like I'm an internet artist creator. You know, I'm not like, of course, I'm not like a designer, right? I'm not like a art, like a graphics, but like you said, podcasts, blogs, videos. Like I love to create, and I feel like I'm a little bit introverted. I know you know, even you've given me some pep talks over the years to you know, talk myself up more, and you
Yes.
know, I'm just I don't like, I just like, I believe in creating, you know, I build stuff and I want those things to represent my value or my contribution. I don't want to have to like tell people what I did or talk myself up. But yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of different, mostly within e-commerce or cross-border trade, you know, between China, Asia, and overseas. Especially during the coronavirus and the trade war, I was on all the different media companies. I don't remember that, like 2 or 3 years I was on like over all of them, like Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Finance TV Live, like
Wow.
talking about trade wars, talking about coronavirus. It was a you know, crazy time those few years. But
Sure.
yeah, no, father, 7 years old, daughter, 9 year old, son in school, living in Chiang Mai, working at the home studio behind me in the studio at the house. Amazing wife, Chinese wife, well, wife from China, like she's Chinese. I hope I don't say it the wrong way, but she's also hardworking
Mm.
person. She's doing her a business now I've been supporting, and I don't know, is that enough? Or I mean, I can go on. You know,
Yeah, no,
I don't
that's
really like talking about myself, to be honest.
that's one thing that I'm the same as you. I don't like to talk about myself, but sometimes you just have to let people know who you are. Don't minimize your achievements, and don't play small. It's not like you're boasting, you're just stating facts. So it's okay.
True,
Another thing that I want to add
true.
about you, you're one of the biggest connectors. You love connecting
Oh,
people, hosting events. So yeah, so that's something that you hosting back then. Probably the biggest e-commerce event after the content fair and the what is it? Global Source. What is it in Hong Kong? Forgot that
there
Mecca
was
was doing.
yeah, the Global Sources Summit
Yeah, yeah.
was happening then.
With those events, your events, the Global from Asia was some of the biggest because you were inviting some of the biggest names in the industry. So
Yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it was cross-border summit. Yeah, I got one of the signs behind me, and yeah, that was really like the high times, you know, of the industry and
Yeah.
community, and yeah, I mean, I love, yeah, connecting people, you know, like I try, especially at an in-person event, but even online, I try my best
Hmm.
to connect people, to think who's the right person for
Exactly.
this person to meet. And
Yeah.
like,
So, Mike, before we start, what I usually do, I like to ask a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
sure, ready.
All right. What makes you happy as a person?
Uh, Seeing people, you know, taking action and making things happen,
What
especially
make?
if it's something I had to do with, like, you know, even hearing you said you were inspired by the podcast
Hmm.
and doing this, that's amazing, man. That
Yeah,
I love it.
when I was back in at home back in 2011, 12, especially after I came back from Hong Kong, daydreaming, obsessed on how can I come return back to China long term. The podcast I was consuming podcasts about that nonstop, and back then it was not like all the podcasts you have now. The only good podcast back then about China was Global from Asia, yours. So I was binge listening your episode nonstop, and yeah, so this was a source of inspiration for me back then.
Great. Okay.
Cool. What makes you smile?
Well, I mean, any parent now, I think, would say just, you know, like my kids now, like even you know, definitely my kids is top one,
Mm.
and the second is, yeah, I mean, seeing other people, you know, growing and developing and taking action, similar maybe to the first one, but yeah, my kids for sure now.
So now, what makes you come alive? What sets your soul on fire? What makes your heart sing in a positive way? Let's take the happiness a couple of notches higher.
Okay. I love to develop my team. I mostly have people in the Philippines working with us, and I love to be able to. I don't want to advertise it too much, but sometimes I've lent money to them when they needed it. Not now, and they pay it back over time as like a loan, and it helps them. And of course, they're very thankful, and it really makes me happy I'm able to do that.
Yeah. Wow.
That do you want multiple or one? I mean, that's the one that just popped in my
That's
mind.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, you're the star. I'm the host. However, the show is about making you shine. Whatever you want to share, however much, within limit, because it's a
Got it.
fireside question, But anyways, up to you, brother.
Great.
Okay, now on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
When I feel like I give someone advice and they I don't have to listen, but maybe there's something like I could have done to help someone and it didn't work out.
Sure. Yeah. What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
Can you say that again?
What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
I've been doing Pomodoros for maybe 8 years, and I feel like I'm really able to do a lot of different things well, which people don't often agree with me on, but I can switch my focus between different things pretty smoothly.
I remember one thing I will never forget. One time back in Hong Kong, we were going to Global Sources. We're staying together at Lucien. We're going on the metro, on the subway. You were with your laptop. It was packed, rush hour. Mike was still typing. That's an image I can never remove from my head. That shows how much hardworking and work ethic you have. I mean, that's wow. I don't know how to me, but hats off to you, brother, for that.
All right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do. I do that a lot. I have some people take photos at trade shows, and maybe it was like that on a train too. But I'm standing. There's not even a seat, so I'm just kind of crouched down, and I have my laptop on my
Yeah.
thigh, and I'm like working like this.
Oh yeah.
Like not like a short term, but like writing along. You know, like writing up stuff, working on stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Honestly, that motivates me. I don't know what's crazy. It's almost like doing your homework the night before to just do, right? Or an exam or cramming. But I kind of get that in my mind. Like I just try to push myself to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. When was the last time that you had a really, really, really good laugh? The type that gives you your cheeks are hurting, your stomach is hurting because of laughing.
I guess it's whatever passed my mind, but there was
almost crying
friend Vlad.
You're laughing so much. Yeah.
My friend Vlad, he was talking about these crazy stories he had when he was in China trying to buy from a factory. And he was very animated. We're at like a coffee shop and it was loud, and there's like obviously random people near us that were listening and laughing, but he's talking about how he went to lunch and the factory owner made him get, didn't make, but got him drunk, and they got drunk, and then somehow the glass broke on the factory owner's hands and he got blood. And then it was like going on and on. Yeah. It was like the funniest story. Like he said he had to carry him on his back because he passed out and he had blood. Whoa. And it was getting on. He had a suit because he thought he had to wear a suit to impress the factory owner. He says he's getting blood on his suit. He tries to put him into a taxi, and the taxi doesn't want him because he's got this bloody, passed out Chinese factory owner. So he was like walking him on his back to the factory in the hot heat of Shenzhen. And it was the funniest story. And then he says he didn't know what to tell the factory company, and he put the guy back on his factory chair. in his office, those big Chinese desks and chairs, and he puts them there, and the guy's like passed out in his chair, and he like has to go, so he leaves. Like that was one of, and he's really, really animated and loud, and there's all these people looking at him and us, and I couldn't stop laughing. I
Sure.
was cracking up. That was the craziest
I hope you have
time I
someone
laughed.
to record that, you know?
No, that's probably better not record. Well, this is recorded, but yeah,
Oh, wow.
that was.
You're making me laugh now. I'm having like, it's hurting my jaw because I'm laughing too much. That's a good one. All right. What is one thing that you used to value that you don't value anymore? One thing, one principle, whatever.
Oh, well, definitely like, maybe it's part of getting older or maturing. Maybe you can reflect, but I don't material things. I mean, I don't know if it's
Mm,
between COVID, even living in Asia, like traveling a lot. Like I don't really want physical things, like
yes,
I try to not even accept, even if they're gifts or like swag or whatever. Like I don't want to get bogged down with stuff anymore.
I agree.
I especially during COVID, I had to like leave stuff in different countries because I had to evacuate, and so now I'm just trying to not to travel so light. I try to travel carry on. I
Absolutely.
try to not, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
for sure, and especially when you're kids, like I have
Oh,
kids, they
yeah.
want toys, they want to show off things, and maybe that's a natural thing as you get older. I don't know, what do you say? But I used to care
Yes.
about things. Now I really don't care.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely. I'm trying to get pack my life in just one carry-on in my backpack. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, what is one thing that you didn't value before that you're now valuing?
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's not like I didn't value health or sleep. Like, I used maybe sleep is more, but I guess sleep and health are related, right? But sleep,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I I don't want to pick on him. I was really inspired a lot by Gary Vee, but there was some times, and it made some of his content where he said, "You don't need to sleep. You don't need to sleep. You sleep when you're dead. You gotta
Yeah.
hustle. You gotta hustle. You gotta hustle." Remember? I think he stopped doing that in his later videos, but I was watching a lot of his stuff in like around when you were talking about 2015, 16, and he had his vlogs and videos. And you don't need to sleep. I sleep 4 hours a night, and I work all day, and I hustle, and I build businesses, and I'm a millionaire, and you can do the same thing. And I tried to follow that, and it killed me, man. I really tried like 4 or 5 hours. It killed me. I was, maybe he can do it or others can do it, but
Yeah.
I need my like,
Sure.
I actually right now I'll be a little bit honest. I didn't sleep well last night. I got like maybe 6.5, and I feel it right now. Even honestly, my energy is lower.
Yeah.
So sleep is so important to me. Like I used to be younger. I think I could just like do coffees or just push through, but now I want to have good sleep.
Absolutely. You mentioned sleep. I think Gary Vee should write the book, just like Tim Ferriss, not the 4 hour work week, but the 4 hour sleep week. you know,
Yeah.
4 hour a night. Come on, you're a slacker. How about 4 hour a week? you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
it's true, right? I mean, and then I guess maybe the second is I still, unfortunately, I still do value, but I should value less what other people think of me, right?
That's key. That's
I think you
huge.
know me. You've probably given that feedback. I care about what people think, and of course, I don't. It's not like I'm an a-hole. Like it's not like I want to do bad things to people, but somebody I might worry they're gonna think this or that because I did this or that, right? And I still I gotta value what they think less and less. And I'm trying, and I still do care, unfortunately, especially those
Yep.
people that don't matter. No
Yep.
offense to that person, but might not matter as much. But you.
I know what you mean. I've been the same before, and it's been a massive struggle, but finally learning, because it's all about putting the most important. One thing I keep hearing is the most important person in your life is you. That's not being selfish. That's being altruistic, because you need to be the best version of you. Fill your cup first so you can give back. If you have nothing left, if you're not your best, you're not going to be of any use. So it's okay to put yourself first. That's something
Yeah.
I've been learning the hard way. It's been tough, but something I had to learn.
Yeah,
Yes,
agreed.
let's move forward. You like traveling, right?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, we can do an entire show on traveling, but we'll do that another time. For now, I want to take it down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you were a young boy growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, parents, relatives, neighbors, friends, teachers, always ask us, "Hey, Mike, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What does your answer to that as a young boy?
Kind of evolved. I used to say artist, like a painter, artist.
Mm,
I remember that for a while. I think, maybe young boy, yeah, like elementary school, I thought artist most
okay.
of the time. Like high school, I remember saying business. And I
Mm,
remember having arguments. I went to a Catholic high school. I had arguments with a few of the nuns or the sisters about what classes I needed. But I'd say like my grade schools was artist, and then my high school was my own business.
mm. So growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or did you hate school?
Well, kind of like I was just saying, some parts I loved, and if I didn't feel like it was relevant, I was very difficult in that class. And I remember Mr. G. He was one of the
Shout out to
teachers,
Mr. G.
Mr.
Okay.
G. Mr. G. Man, I appreciate the guy, but
Uh,
like he had I forget what classes. He was more like philosophy and like maybe even religion, because we had a religious. It was
oh
just,
wow.
and I would kind of ask him questions that would always challenge his. I would ask why, because he would teach something like this happened, and I would just usually have like short questions, like kind of like why, or like short ones that were hard for him to answer, or was always contesting what he was teaching us. So one day he's like, Michael, can you speak to me after class? Stay after class, speak with me. And he's like, why are you so confrontational? Why can't you just, I just said, I don't need this class. Like, I wish I could opt out. No offense to you, but I don't need this class. And he's saying like, and I did it to chemistry too.
Mm.
So the more he was just saying, you're just very confrontational. And then my sister, Christine, she says, by the end of this semester, you're going to memorize the whole periodic table of elements. And she pulls down that chart, like pulls it down, and you're going to know all the numbers, the letters, the weights. We're going to go row by row, column by column,
Electrons,
like,
photons, all of that. Yes.
yeah, like atomic weights,
Why?
atomic numbers. Yeah, I raised my hand. She's like, yes, Michael, hi. Why?
How
That
was
was
that
my
helping?
only why.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, Michael, I don't appreciate your attitude. Talk to me after class. So after class, she's like, why, why are you doing that? Why are you like this? I said, I don't believe the best use of our time is to memorize a pure table of elements for 3 or 6 months or whatever it was. She's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to start my own business. I didn't even know what kind of business, but I thought I wanted to I remember in high school, like this is like junior year. I knew I wanted to do my own business. She's like, well, one day there is going to be nobody in the office, and something's going to spill on the floor, and you're going to need to clean it, and you're going to open up the cabinet under the sink, and you're going to take the wrong chemical and another chemical, you're going to mix it, and you're going to create a fire.
I'm gonna
And I
call my
was
maid.
like, I was like, because I didn't memorize the periodic table of elements in
That's the
junior year of
worst
high
example
school,
of all example. That's what you
that was
call
the
me.
reason.
Wow.
And then I said, sister Amy, she was one. She's in college now, and I still talk to her a little bit. She says in the exams they give you this piece of paper for you to use as a resource during your exam. They don't make you memorize it in college.
Yeah.
And then she says, well, that might be the case, but you still need to know it to save time from looking at it during the exam. So it's a. I was like, like. But
Yeah.
of course, there are some classes like I liked more like logical ones. Like one of my favorite classes was thermodynamics, which I didn't expect to like, but I liked it because it was logical. It was input equals output. So it was like a game. You're like putting in this stuff and it goes through these processes and this is what comes out, and you can kind of figure it out. Like I like puzzles or, but I didn't like memorizing. I really, really hated memorizing.
Yeah. can see that. Yeah. Imagine if you were in the same class in grade 10, 11. What kind of kid were you? Were you like the shy one, the chatterbox, the life of the party, the superstar athlete? What kind of kid were you?
Um, so I was I guess you could say, I don't know, it sounds weird, but politician. I should I won the class president every year in high school, and then when I ran in college, I think I only did it a freshman sophomore, but I also won freshman sophomore class president. And I remember running in freshman of high school. I went to the Catholic school. My parents didn't want me to go to public school because they said it was dangerous and I sell drugs or something like this. So they didn't want me to go to public school. Yeah, they thought that because I was a networker, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
connector. So they were afraid I was gonna like sell drugs or something or whatever, I guess. Um, so I'm going to high school and I don't know anybody, nobody, you know, and I'm sitting in the gym at the opening day, and people, I felt like were talking about my shoes or something and laughing at me from the back row. I think, but a lot of the kids knew each other.
Mm.
They like came from the same elementary school. This was like the high school. It was like a group. And, you know, it's like the first or second week, they're like, okay, who's gonna run for president? Who's gonna run for president? You know, please, you got to fill out this paper and submit it before, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like you had to fill out some paper and give it to the teacher or put in a box or whatever. And I remember this so clearly. I won't say his name, but his name is also Mike. There's lots of Mikes, as you can imagine. And I think he's sitting in front of me. I'm sitting in here in the second or third row. He turns around. He's like, he sees me filling out the paper. He's like, "You're gonna run for class president? Nobody knows you." And Leslie or whatever her name, she's like, she's gonna win. She's running, and her brother's like the best basketball player in junior class. So everybody likes her brother. Everybody knows her. Nobody knows you. Nobody's gonna vote for you. He's saying this to me, like, you know how he's turning back, right? You know those old school chair desks, right? So he's got it's like the metal one piece chair. And he's like, so he's sliding like, yeah, he's like sliding like this, saying like, you shouldn't even bother. Nobody's gonna vote for you. There's a popular girl everybody likes, is gonna vote for. I ran, and I made posters that says it was this Uncle Sam, you know, with the point the finger.
Yeah.
And it says, "Do what's right, vote for Mike." And I was putting them up on the different parts of the school, and then I was putting them up on the walls. And this actually she was a very attractive, charismatic sophomore girl, Bridget, and she saw me like hustling, like, you know, and nobody knew me, and I'm putting posters up on this during the class break or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, you're running for president of freshman class?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "Your name is Michael Michelini?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like screaming it out. Like, she's like, "Let's go." And she's like, "Vote for Mike, vote for Mike." And then she was kind of like popular in her sophomore class. So she's getting her other girlfriends like all like chanting it in the halls, like up and down the halls in the high school. And you know, so who, you know, there's only one president of, at least in our school, for each class, right?
Yeah.
Freshman and sophomore. So I think there's maybe another contestant, or maybe it's just the two of us. Who do you think won? Well, I think I kind of said it, but
Yeah, you won. What did that guy do? The one that said, "What do you think you got?"
So it's an interesting story. I didn't win.
Ah,
We exactly tied.
With that guy?
Exact amount of votes.
with that guy?
The girl, no, he didn't
Ah.
run. He was just he was a peanut gallery. He just says I was going to lose to the popular
I like that.
girl.
Peanut gallery, okay.
He was just saying, "Oh, don't even bother. She's so popular. She's going to win. Don't even try." He wasn't competing with me. He was just saying, "Oh, Mike, who knows? Nobody knows you. Don't even bother." So no, it was exact tie. And they said they counted and counted and counted, and they couldn't find, they were always exactly, like whatever the number was, exactly. So we were co-president.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were both president. And then here's the craziest story. The family moved out of the town. the brother, the popular brother and her, or changed schools, something. They left the school. I can't remember the exact reason, and I became the only president.
Universe working for you, you know?
Yeah. So that's kind of me, I think I feel like I'm still the same as that. And I think, me, I'm trying to be neutral. I try to like be
Yes.
friendly to as many people as I can. Another thing, when you sign the shirts on the back of your shirt, on at least in our school, with the last day of senior year in high school, and this one girl, Lorraine or something, she says, don't change. You're like the nicest guy. Don't change for anybody. People are going to try to change you.
Oh, that's
They're
sweet.
going to tell you. She says, don't change for anybody. So,
Wow, that's sweet.
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's still true. But then they try to change me in college. I was in a fraternity. So, of course, fraternities try to change you. And I worked on Wall Street. They try to change me.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, you're too nice. You're too nice. That's what the fraternity guys would say. Michelangelo, you a Ninja Turtle? Get out of my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta chill
So
like
they
a
tried to
villain.
change me, but I don't know.
Wow, yeah.
Maybe
Wow.
even this weekend people try to change me at this conference, but
Everybody
I don't
does
know.
that. Everybody's trying to mold you the way they want you to be now, but that's how it is.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's human nature, right?
Yeah, it's all about influence. Everyone's trying to influence you and all that. But anyways, so last question about your days in school, especially high school and beyond. Were you popular with the ladies?
I would say so. I mean, I still, I was like a little bit of a geek, especially high school. I was a little bit more shy.
Mm,
But of course, I was in soccer, and I kept in good shape or health, and they would like me, and or certain girls would be crushed with me, and then there was some. But I was really, honestly, the other reason is I was so focused on my work.
mm,
I didn't want to get distracted with girls too much, because
sure.
I was in school. I was even doing extra classes at night at a community college to use for my college when I went to freshman year. I was in soccer and baseball and Boy Scouts, and worked part-time at a grocery store. So I was really afraid that a girlfriend would distract me. But of
Mm,
course there was some encounters, but I usually they wouldn't last, because they would start to say you care about your school or your work more than me. It was a lot of times they're competing, right? They feel like so, yeah. But I mean, I was like the kind of like shyer,
mm.
busy kid that certain girls would, like.
Shy Casanova, huh? No, that's cool. That's cool. Um, let's move forward. From the moment you left school to now, how would you describe your path? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing? Once you get into one lane, you were set for life, or more like turns and twists like a roller coaster? I kind of know the answer, but I want you to say it.
Yeah, I guess you know the answer. Like I've written a few books myself, and
Yeah.
even before I wrote them, the people I met in my life would feel like you're living your life like a book. Like you're like not living like a normal life. That's what some of my friends would tell me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess it's anything but easy, and I've definitely still got a long way to go before I can say I made it. But I went to engineering school because my parents and the nuns wanted me to go be an engineer. I didn't want to go to engineering college. So they're like, oh, and I said, I want to start my own business. They said, oh, you got to get a technical degree, undergrad, an MBA, and then you can start your own business. So I believed that, this is like the 90s, the late 90s.
Sure.
So I believed that. So I thought I had to go to technical college, work, save money for an MBA, go to MBA class, get an MBA, and then could start my own business. I really thought that was the path.
Hmm.
I think I even have like one of those school projects where you had to draw your milestones, plan your life. You ever did those? I
Yep.
swear, I think I said like get good job, go to good college, get a good job, get MBA, start my own business. I think it was something like that.
Hmm.
I think even in my like teens, like early, even maybe 12, 11, something. I remember showing my mom that. I don't know how old I was, but So I didn't want to do I didn't want to be an engineer. So I went against the grain and I interviewed at an investment bank, Deutsche Bank, for first for tech. And then I said in the interview, I don't want to do technology. I want to move to the trading floor. I want to work on the trading floor. I want to do the business side. I don't want to do the IT side. You know what the guy says? He says, you know, I'm the hiring manager for the IT department. I'm not the hiring manager for the
Oops.
department.
Oops. Talk about shooting yourself on the foot.
And I mean, I didn't know, I knew that too, but I felt like, what can I do? I'm trying, they wouldn't let me apply for that. They said you can only apply for the IT. So I remember the HR, it's mostly women, at least in that company.
Yeah.
It was like 3 or 4 HR. They were really nice. I think I did the summer program at Deutsche Bank with them, and they were trying to give me a full-time job. And they said, what? You said that to him? You're crazy. And you know, the craziest was they called me back 2 or 3 weeks later. They said, oh, actually, you know, they were really impressed with your interview. You know, and we decided to give you a final round interview in the trading department.
I think
so they let me interview.
I think the guy really,
And I got an interview at the trading side, Deutsche Bank,
I think he
in
liked,
Manhattan instead of New Jersey.
I think he liked your honesty.
And
yeah,
yeah, I guess they liked it because I said it straight up to them. And I've been straight up to a lot of, there's so many stories like that where I'm straight to these people. I could go on a few more in my career at Deutsche Bank. I almost got, people thought I was gonna get fired. Like it was like the first week of the orientation, and the head of the IT department, because I was actually in the middle office, to be honest. I wasn't a trader, I was a trading assistant. So I was between tech and the trading department. That was my job. So I was also in a technology field still. And so the head of the IT of New York came to speak to the new hires. And there was a big tech problem with the integration of their software and the trading side, and it was always causing problems. And it messed up my, it messed up my work all the time. And we had penalties from the whatever these, you know, NASDAQ, NASD, and the New York Exchange, because it was like late filing and late reporting or change tickets. So I raised my, he actually was really cocky, this guy. He brought his trophies. He brought trophies and put them on the table at the front of the room. He's like, I've won all these IT awards for my software. Like, really all about him and how great he is and how great the software is. And I raised my hand. He's like, oh, yes, you, yes, in the back or whatever. I said, your software is the biggest problem in my job right now, and we're losing a lot of money, and everybody's complaining about it all the time. And you know, man, like everybody, there's like 80 people, right? Everybody's like, you're dead, man. You are done. Like, goodbye. You know, like, this is like the head of the IT, you know, and you're telling him his software sucks in front of everybody.
Who's that guy? An intern saying that to me? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he asked me to talk to after. And he says, thank you, because most people don't have the courage to say there's something wrong. And I didn't know there was a problem. I didn't know. Wow. Nobody says it to me.
Credit. Good for him.
Nobody says it to me. So I'm glad you said something to me. Can you set up a special department? You can get some of the other interns or people in other departments, and you put together like a group of 4 or 5 people and help me get to the bottom of this problem.
Wow.
And I took 2 or 3 other new hires, and they were shocked. I remember this one, she was really cute. I think Argentinian or Latin American girl they hired, maybe from Peru. So, you know, she had the Spanish accent, because she's sitting next to me or in front of me, and she's like, you know, like, so
that's universal.
I went to the bar after, you know, happy hour, and they're like, oh, you're here still? And I told them, and they were like, wow. And then I got her and a couple others, and we had these like special departments for a while. But I was stuff like that. And but I wanted to, you know, I thought I wanted to get an MBA. I thought I had to get an MBA. So I started saving my money, eating peanut butter on the floor, getting laughed at because I'm eating peanut butter and jelly on Wall Street, New York. And I didn't care. I would make peanut butter and jelly for the whole week. I put them in plastic bags in my refrigerator, and every morning I'll take it to lunch and I eat that. I wouldn't pay the $12, $15 lunch, you know. I would use the free coffee from the canteen. I didn't buy the Starbucks or the whatever coffee.
Sure.
And I saved it. You know what I called the E-Trade savings money market? I had like a 4 or 5% interest on money market. I nicknamed it the FU fund.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah. And it got up to like $80,000 in maybe 5 years.
Nice.
And you know, I quit and in 2007. And I remember these guys, you know, they're like almost like fraternity, right? But they're like, you're gonna be begging for your job back in a month. And then another guy's like, nah, I think he's got savings, he'll probably come back in 6 months. No, he'll come back in 3 months. Oh yeah, I'll bet you. They're like betting in front of me about how long it's gonna be until I come back in for my job. If you know, like, oh, I'll put in $100 on that, and they're like making a book, you know, like a betting book in front of me of like how long I'm gonna last before I beg for my job back. And then I said, don't worry, I'm gonna IPO this. And I remember the guy specifically, Patrick, and he's like, oh, please let me know so I can make sure to get enough short position as soon as I can.
Best I ever. Wow.
And
Why did you quit that job? You were on a trajectory to be set for life, you know, work at a big bank and Wall Street.
yeah, I made over 100,000 a year, and I was like 23, 24 years old, and I was saving a lot. I was so sad, Lorenzo. I was taking antidepressants. I was seeing a psychiatrist.
Sure.
I remember I went to a psychiatrist in like right off of New York Wall Street, like on Water Street, and a high built, you know, she's got the nice view, and I'm sitting in her office, and she's like, why are you not happy? You're making so much money. You live in New York City. There's so many, you know, like nightlife things you can do, beautiful girls, etc., which I did have. I was having fun. I was also selling on eBay. I was selling on my website, New York Bar Store. I think you know about my first e-com business doing that. I don't know. I mean, and then she prescribed me some kind of antidepressants, and I felt kind of like a failure. I remember, and I think she could see I wasn't sad about that. And she's like, "Oh, don't worry. It's like they might as well put this stuff in the tap water, in the water in New York, because everybody's on this. Don't worry." That's what she says, and she gives me the prescription to go get the pills. And you know, and then yeah, I just felt like you know, and it just didn't seem like it made sense. Like I remember it was like 2006, and I was on Wall Street, and I was looking at the trading floor, and I was like, you're a red pick, you're a red color, you're a green, you're a red, you're a green, you're a red, you're a green. Like you are not needed. You're going to get turned into a algorithm, a system. The bank doesn't care about any of you. You guys are just temporary humans until they get some machine to replace you. My job is replaceable. I was getting paid a lot of money. My job was I had to get ham, cheese, and egg or bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, and coffee. And then sometimes I had to like clean their tie at a dry cleaner and get a new shirt. And then I had to like fight people on the phones about trades, and you know, like get yelled at, and you know, sometimes they throw the phone at me and like take out their anger at me because I was like the trading assistant. Like I worked on Bloomberg terminal, and they would just like, I was like the punching bag. I could go through, if you want to hear some of those stories, I could go through.
Oh yes,
but
that's fascinating. Go, please.
So one of my favorite stories, well, it's not my worst memories. You know, basically, I could put trades, but because I had a license, but I was like a relayer, so they would put it on the piece of paper, right? They'd write it on and they'd throw it on. Even if I was in front of them, they'd write it and throw it on the floor anyway. They wouldn't hand it to me. They'd throw it in front of me on the floor to pick up. So, you know, so one time they call me Shadow. because I was quiet and fast and probably, you know, nice, right? And so they want me to book the trades fast as possible because once I put it into the computer, it would show on the stock market, right? It would show because I did bonds. It was distressed bonds, very illiquid. It's not like stocks. It's like it's you know, I think you understand. I don't want so it's like more human inner at least in that time. So he throws a piece of paper on the floor and I pick it up real fast. And then I'm walking back to his desk, the trader, and he's got the phone, you know, those phones with like the shoulder thing. It's like a black phone with the
Old
long
school,
cable.
yeah.
And he's like, you can hear somebody yelling at him. You can hear somebody like, you try to rip me off? You ripping me off? And he's like, got this, and he's sitting low. You know, they always sit low under their computer like this, and he's like this, and he's looking at one of his screens, and he sees my trade ticking like, and it shows the price. And what was happening was he bought it for like, I don't know, let's just say 10 cents on a dollar. He's selling it for 15 cents on a dollar, something like this. I don't know. He had a really wide spread. So I think he didn't want me to put that first one in until he put both, because then I put both. I didn't know. And he's always yelling at me I'm too slow or whatever. So the guy is yelling on the phone. He doesn't even hang up the phone. The guy is still yelling. He just stands up, and he's like a football player from like Princeton or like Yale, like this really elite a football player guy, like 6 something, right? Huge guy. These guys are like, gets up, stands over me, like I'm 5'8", you know, so he stands over me like this, and he's like, "Did you put that trade in the books on the terminal?" I'm like, and everybody shut up. And he's loud in my face. Everybody shut up. It's like a huge floor, right? I'm talking like football field size. And he's like, did you answer my question? Did you put that trade in? Did you put that trade in? Of course, you got to add some F words into there. I don't want to say
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I did. You lost me 5. Jeez, you mother. Like this in my face, that I lost him $5,000 on his trade.
Wow.
And yeah, like that. So then they implemented the bell. So they had like those ding 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 ding, like hotel bells.
Yeah.
So that was my bell. So when they wanted me to put the trade, they go ding, ding, ding. So I started getting some, I started to get a little, I started getting pushback. So I took it. There's sometimes like the janitor walking up and down the trading floor cleaning up the garbage, cleaning up. I took that thing and went, and I spiked it into the garbage can. This, the huge,
Well, yeah,
rolling garbage can thing that the like guy was cleaning up. And then they're like, "Oh, Shadow, you don't like that bell? We still need a bell. You gotta go find another bell. Go to the like Staples and get a bell. So pick one you like."
God, wow.
And so yeah, like I got the other bell, and it was like a ding ding ding, like a tea time bell. And so there was a girl I had this kind of crush. She was really hot, you think in New York, like, like black straight hair, like maybe she's Italian, like tanned, like well defined, also like nice smile, nice person. And it was hard for me to have the courage to talk to her. She's on another kind of area of the trading floor. And I think finally I had the courage to talk to her one day afternoon, like, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going by her and I started talking to her, and I was talking about something like, "Oh, there's some happy hour tonight. You going there?" On the other side,
They're calling
and
you.
then yeah, I'm like talking to her, and she's like, "Are they calling you?" I'm like, "No, I don't know. Shadow, Shadow." And then he's like, because he's they're all low under their desks, So he's like, "Where are you? Shadow, Shadow."
Yo,
I'm like, oh, and there was no hiding it, because you get over here, stop hitting that girl. You like her?
And now they're calling you by your name. It's like, "Hey, Shadow, come here."
And those guys, they never had the courage to talk to any girls. I mean, they
Yeah.
were making way more than me. They're millionaires, but they had no. So there, another time, we're down in some Irish pub like Michelini's or something, McLaury's, whatever, and like down off Wall Street, like in a basement, and it was like maybe early at that time, 4 or 5, and there was a group of beautiful girls on the other side, and those guys are saying, "Oh, these girls are beautiful." Oh, look, and there's not that many other people in the bar yet. I got balls, I got courage to go talk to them. So I get up and I go over there and I'm talking to them and they're talking to me and they're like, "Oh, yeah, Shadow, get him, Shadow, yeah, good, good, yeah." And the girls are, they're like these New York girls or Jersey girls are like, "Are they talking to you? Is they talking to you?"
Nah.
Like, I don't know who those
Fugazi.
guys are. I don't know. They're not talking to me, but they're like, there ain't nobody else around here. There ain't nobody else, just us. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there's like the waiter or something. I don't know. Like, yeah, Shadow, we fucking looking us, man. Oh, you got the girls now and you forgot about us, huh? You got the girls. You forgot about your boys, huh? You're just taking all the girls. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
It was like that all the time. All the time. All the time.
And we need to do an episode with just stories, fun stories, wild stories from the time in New York, but also from the time in China with the
Yeah, I
factory.
mean, there's so many stories.
Wow.
Yeah, so I finally quit that. And then another story is still thought it was actually the ADGs I saved, I thought it was gonna be for my MBA. And still wasn't probably enough because those things are,
Yeah.
I don't know how much so I started taking those Kaplan prep tests. The Kaplan, you gotta you don't have to, but it helps you get your GMATs because you need the good GMATs to go to the good MBA school, right? So it's Kaplan, GMAT, MBA school. So I signed up. I think the bank paid for the prep classes for me or something. So I signed up for the night class. I go into the night class. Hey, everybody, thanks for signing for the Kaplan GMAT prep test. Today, we're going to just get to know each other a little bit more. Can you say your name and where you work? And what do you want to do with your MBA? Hi, I'm Joe. I work at Lehman, and I want to get an MBA so I can get a raise. Hi, I'm Jane. I work at Goldman Sachs, and I want to get it so I can get a VP position. Hi, I'm Joe, and I work at Merrill Lynch, and I want to get it so I can get a raise. I want a promotion. I want a raise. I want a VP. I want to be a VP. And the whole thing was like that. Hi, I'm Mike Michelini. I work at Deutsche Bank, and I want to get an MBA so I can start my own business.
I was looking at you.
Everybody was like, who is this guy? Why is he in here? And then I was like, I don't even know if I lasted the whole first class. Because they're like, okay, thanks for all the intros. Let's start to prepare. Okay, now we're going to do the geometry. Let's go over the circumference of a circle. Okay. And, it's like, and then how do we get the area of a triangle? Okay, everybody. And then I was like, man, this is some bullshit, man. I'm not going to do this. And I don't want to say I walked out, but I definitely didn't come back, right? I don't know. I felt, me, I feel a little bit bad because, the company had paid for it, but I can't remember if I walked out right away or I finished that one or maybe I came to one or two more, but I definitely didn't finish that prep test. And
did you get the money back? Did you get the money refunded for the course?
I think I didn't care, unfortunately, because the company paid. They would reimburse or whatever. And but I don't think they would have anyway, right? I mean,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is I decided to go to China instead of getting MBA. I'm like, well, actually, the real truth is I didn't think I would live in China, but I was buying from China. And I was networking on MySpace. There was no Facebook. I was talking to other bar product sellers on e-commerce. And they also needed help buying from China. In MySpace messages, crazy, dude. Everybody's like thinks I'm some stalker using MySpace, but there was a lot of business people on MySpace making their business pages and promoting their businesses on MySpace. I was talking to a lot of them in my industry. And they're like, oh, you can help us buy from China. You can help us buy from China. So I even started doing that while I was in New York City.
Wow.
I was doing that while I was in New York City. And I was buying it for myself, but I felt like a hypocrite because I barely knew how to buy from China, right? Like how was I that much better than they were, you know? So I felt like I had to go to China now. Like I'm getting I was doing trades with them. I stayed up late on Alibaba and Skype, and
Back then, yeah.
like 10, 11 o'clock at night on Skype with Chinese factories. Yeah. So I went to San Diego first because my friend lived there and he offered me a spare room and month to month. So I quit my job and went to San Diego and started doing my sourcing. But I got so bored in San Diego. It's so boring.
The beach guy.
I mean, it's nice for a while, but there was a coffee shop I went to on the beach in Ocean Beach, and it was a family owned because I don't like Starbucks. I choose a family owned local over Starbucks. And they were saying, we should just put your name on this table because I would literally go there. I think I haven't brought a voice over IP phone.
Yeah.
Those, VoIP phones you could plug into your USB. I think I had the laptop and the phone because I was doing calls. And they're like, we should just put your name here. I don't know if she meant that in a nice way or like trying to tell me to stop coming. She was nice. I think it was a nice, but nobody, it's just 2007. Nobody was doing their own business. I went to some kind of government, like import-export society, like some kind of government meetups about import-exports. Because there was no startup stuff. There was no tech stuff. There was nothing. So I went to China in October 07 after that summer. And I was blown away in China. Like,
oh yeah, especially
I
back
think
then.
I've said,
yeah.
I thought, I'm not meaning to be racist. Sometimes people got upset. I said this once on a Chinese TV show, but I said, I thought that they were going to come in rice fields and pointy hats. And I'm not trying to be like, racist, but I really thought it was gonna be like fields of rice and farmers. Because I don't think US news said it was like this. And then I get to Hong Kong, especially, I've landed in Hong Kong. I was like, what? This is nuts, man. This is like way more advanced than the US.
And back then there was no YouTube for you to do research, no forums, no nothing, no Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so then I was like, man, I was there for a month. I went to some of the shows and I went to factories and I traveled even to Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing. And then it was like, man, this is it's fun, but it's adventure. And it's like, and
exciting.
There's so much opportunity. I was like, I got to come back. I got to come back. But I went back for Christmas in 07. And I have a Christmas with my parents in Florida. They thought I was nuts. Well, they're already kind of disappointed I quit my 6-figure job in New York. But then I went back to China like right after Christmas 07 to like find a place and live.
We'll get to China in a moment. One question I want to ask you is, I'm sure you wondered sometime, how would have your life panned out if you had stayed in New York and kept that job, and by now you'd be in a much more advanced position, especially maybe VP or your own firm, whatever. Have you thought about it, how your life could have been completely different and much probably easier financially? Because I know the path of an entrepreneur is fun, it's exciting, but it's feast and famine,
Yeah, I know. I could dig up the pictures. My going away party in New York, and I was really unhealthy. I was overweight. That was probably one of the bigger times in my life, wider times in my life. I could try to dig it up if you want. Because I realized that last year or two, I was really stressed. And I was drinking coffees all morning. And I started liking Diet Dr. Pepper. It tastes better, or at least it did. I would drink Diet Dr. Pepper in the afternoon, and then I would drink beer or alcohol at night. Every day. Almost every day. Even weekends. And I was grinding hard. Also, I was doing my eBay and my website. No Amazon there. A little bit of Amazon, but I was just not happy. I told you I was on antidepressants. I think it even had erectile dysfunction side effects. I remember the doc, and it was true. It was true, man.
Wow.
So, I was overweight. I was on antidepressants. Yeah, I was making over 100,000 a year, and I was like, whatever, 24, 23, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I was just, and I was, yeah, there was beautiful women there, like, and it was easy, especially working on Wall Street, like,
Sure.
um, yeah, I mean, like, obviously it would be a completely different outcome from where I am now, right? I mean, I probably would
Sure.
live in New Jersey right now, probably be married, probably have kids again, working there, making more money, maybe I own a house, have more money in my bank account. But another thing I didn't really say, but after I went to China, I went back there. I keep in touch. I would go back to New York, and I would even get back on the trading floor. They'd let me up. I'd get a guest badge or whatever. They were sitting in the same exact seat a year later. I think I went back 2 or 3 times over the first 4 or 5 years I was in China. I would go back. I was like taking at least a yearly trip back to the US then. And they're like, "Oh man, how's it going? What have you been up to?" And I see they're still sitting at the same desk. I think they have still the same family picture on the desk,
Same pen.
and
You
same
know?
pen. Yeah. And they would ask me like, "Oh, how'd you still don't need to come back to your job?" Like they were so actually, I guess I should have sold a course of eBay or something, because they were asking me like, "How do you make money online? How do you do that? How do you do your e-commerce store? How do you start an eBay store?"
Yeah.
I remember being on the NR, the yellow line, and going up. I'm still working there, and they were all so amazed I could quit this a job, and they're like, "I want to quit. I'm just gonna save more money, or I'm gonna wait." They were telling me this. I'm gonna quit too. A lot of people, especially in finance, most people are not happy in
Yeah.
finance.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. I might, a really cool book. I don't know if you read it, Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Let me write
You
this
ever heard
down.
of that one?
Sounds
I've read this at least 2 or 3, maybe even 3 times. I probably will read it again soon.
okay.
It's kind of like what you're saying about this question. It's like a college kid, and he meets I don't know if it's really a physical person or a spirit or himself, but he meets somebody outside at 3 a.m. when he can't sleep. That's like a garage worker. And the guy like reflects on his life, and he's somehow able to take him back in time and change and fast forward his life, and then seeing him like married but selling insurance, and then he shows him different styles of his life. And but yeah, I don't think anybody should have regrets, even if I
No.
don't think anybody should have regrets, but I definitely don't. Of course, you've seen you've seen it yourself with me, and we've been through it together. There's been definitely downs, but
I could have
I think, what this is life, right? This is living life.
I had a path some way similar to yours. I was about to apply to law school back in 2007, and then a book changed my life. It was a 4-hour work week. I started my
Yeah.
business and I didn't send my application to the horror of my family, my parents. And then back in 2019, I was in Hong Kong. It was 4 o'clock. I was just chatting nonstop with Lucian. We couldn't sleep. And then I saw a notification from LinkedIn from a guy that I knew back from way back 2007. I met him. He was in second year at law school in Ottawa. And I just got a notification saying, "Hey, congratulate this person because they just get promoted to senior counsel at VP at TD Bank in Toronto." I said, "Holy smoke, this guy, senior counsel, VP at legal counsel at TD. Holy smoke!" And that made me really reflect how my life could have been better. But then I thought, do I really want to put in 100 hours a week and doing something I don't like? Sure, I would make much more money. I would be safer and more secure, but that's not the path I want. So, but yeah,
I know.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah. But anyways, life for me, I see life as a buffet. We're here to experience all kinds of dishes. I don't mean just the food, but the experiences. For me, I did corporate. I did laptop lifestyle. I did oil field. I did football coach, soccer coach. I did e-commerce events. I did now podcasting, publishing. That's what life is for me. Experience as many things as you can. Taste as many dishes as you
Exactly.
can. Yeah, man. Beautiful. Okay, wow. What a story. I'm sure we can do an entire episode just on the stories from. So one last question I want to ask about the floor, the trading floor. I wanted to ask you, but I didn't, but I have to ask you, how similar, how real the floor was back then to the scene you see depicted on, say, for example, the Wolf of Wall Street, that movie? Is it all these guys going all crazy and all these high-powered
Yeah, I mean,
traders having to take medicine and what is it called, the drug gluten, jerking off 5 times a day just to keep with the stress and all that? Matthew McConaughey says that in the video.
it's been, I heard now it's like nothing at all. It's totally, some of my friends there I still keep in
Manila?
touch with, but it wasn't. I think it was really crazy whenever that movie came out, and I think those are true, but it keeps getting cleaner or more and more.
DC.
So I was there in like between 03 to 07, and it was more in the middle of where it is now. Is very, very like clean, and you can't do that now, but it wasn't like total that insane. There was some like I drink a bottle of Tabasco sauce, like one of those like medium sized ones. There was some shaving of heads of once or twice as like for new people. I don't think it's women, it was like men. There was like eating competitions of chicken nuggets from McDonald's. They'd stack them up. That was a funny one. So what they would do is usually it was a remote and it was like honor system, but it would be like, say, our bank versus somebody else, or maybe even multiple. We call them up on speaker and you'd stack them up and then count and see who could eat more like chicken nuggets. But it was not like Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, no, obviously no intercourse on the floor or
Those strippers
that
or
kind of stuff.
hookers invited for party.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is, I think even that happened in Long Island. He says not in New York City. I don't think that stuff happened in New York City's.
Okay.
That Wolf of Wall Street was more on like outskirts, like in Long Island.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially in the 2000s and when I was there, it was getting more tame, but there was still like that fraternity vibe. But
wow.
And I think it's good. There's more women, not just like secretaries, but like women working there. So it had women, and some of them would actually also kind of be like crazy like the men, but of course it's mostly the men that were like the animals, but mostly it was like just picking on the new guys like me, the up and coming.
Wow. So moving forward, you went to China. So you said you're completely blown away, just like I was the first time I went to Hong Kong and China. And what made you decide to stay? You said you went back for Christmas and you came back. In your mind, you were obsessed, just like me. How soon can I come back? And when you finally came back, you went back to Shenzhen or you went to Shanghai. And tell us about your path
Sure.
to get established in China initially.
Sure. So the story is, I think even before I traveled to China, I guess what I had done is I rented a room from my friend Peter in San Diego after quitting New York City, Wall Street, Deutsche Bank job. I went to there. And I was month to month. He says, just give me a month's notice if you want to move out. No problem. Just give me some time to find somebody else to rent that room. So I was like, I was going to go to the trade shows in October, right? I think, the Canton Fair, all these trade shows for like a month. I booked like a 4-week trip in October 07. So I'm like, I'm not going to pay for rent there. I don't have anything, right? So I think I mailed stuff back to my parents in Florida who had retired in Florida. And I flew to China into October 07, maybe even September 07 for a month, not knowing where I was going to live after that trip. I think, I have mikesblog.com then too, and we could even dig up the archives, but I was pretty, back then blogs was like journals, right? Back then people just, so I was just journaling it, which I kind of miss. I should just do that again, honestly, but that was just like journaling, like, oh, I'm going to go. And I was like, not sure where to stay. Do I stay in California when I come back, New York, or Florida? That was like my 3. I don't even think I had China on the list. I went to China 07 and, talking about global sources, they always had these maybe didn't have the summit style, but they had these kind of like, like speaker sessions and roundtables or panels, even back in 07. So I went to one panel session and Mike Bellamy was there, Mike. And I think he even allowed us to have like Q&A with them after, or, you know, and I'll, you know, me. So I remember sitting with them or talking to them after the end. And I was asking all these questions. He's like, Mike, you got a lot of questions. You know, I can't answer all these now. Cause I think I had, you know, me, I have like the notebook and I'm like writing his answers, you know, like
Grilling the guy, yeah.
he's like, I think you could just live here. I think he's the one that said it. I was like, you can live here? It wasn't in my brain that you could live outside of your home country. And when I was in like September, October 07, I was like, I thought can only visit somewhere and I have to go back to where I'm based. I thought I had to like change I just had no idea, to be honest. He's like, yeah, you can live in China. You can just stay there. And that was like, obviously like towards the early part of my trip in Hong Kong. And I went to Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, meeting different business contacts. And it was also a crazy, you know, some people hate it, right? Some people think it's chaotic and annoying and they can't wait to get out. But I think, you know, me, I love that. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I kind of, especially when we're younger, maybe now it's not as fun for me, but yeah, went back to the US because actually the other thing is I changed my flight. I pushed it back for one more week. I remember writing a blog post about it in some hotel in Beijing. I was like, I'm staying another week. There's still so much to do here. I got more meetings lined up. So I think I stayed 5 weeks in China and like an extra week in Beijing because I only left like 2 or 3 days in Beijing. There's just so much to see and do. And I'm talking about, man, I would contact companies off of Yahoo Finance on there because they have the investor relations and I would contact them. And I was arranged meetings, you know, like, and I met these people in Beijing, you know, like I was going to do a tech startup. I did actually do a tech startup in China, but I thought I was going to do it sooner. So I was talking to these tech companies in the coffee shops and they took me around their companies. And especially then, no foreigners not many went there and contacted them and met them, right? So I went back to the US and yeah, I felt bad about leaving my parents but I, you know, I wasn't seeing them that much. I could go anywhere. I can go anywhere. I was thinking about staying in Florida, maybe near my parents. So I was thinking about going back to New York, but I'm like, it's so expensive there and I'm probably gonna get trapped. I felt like if I go back to New York City or New Jersey or I'm gonna get stuck and burn my money and not, you know, and then have to work again. I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I know I may not know, but I felt like if I live in New York City and I was making a couple thousand a month from my e-commerce business, and we were actually had a couple partners, we were splitting it, you know, so I was like, I was able to live off that in California because I was renting a room for $400 a month on the beach in Ocean, well, 2 blocks from the beach, Ocean Beach, $400 a month to month. And I was eating like California burritos. I could have gone back to California at that time. It was, you know, a couple thousand a month. I remember I didn't want to get the insurance. My mom is, I think, so scared for me. I had no insurance. But insurance is like $800 a month.
What?
For basic. It's called Cobra. I'm sure
crazy.
people, at least in 07.
Wow.
I was like, I don't want to get Cobra. And it doesn't even cover you. It's just like if you go to an emergency room or something, right? Like you're
Back
about
then
to
you were
die.
young, so you don't need to have like, you know, coverage. If you're like 60, 70, maybe yes, but back then in the 20s, you don't need that.
Yeah, but everybody scared me, say you need it. But so anyways, I just felt like, you know, after that trip and after what Mike Bellamy had said and others, there was others I was meeting that were foreigners that were living in different parts of China. I was like, there was a whole wave of these people like before us, the like not computer people, right? I don't know if you met them, but I met a lot of those like OG kind of import export guys that would be able to figure out how to like use Skype on their computer and that was it. Maybe Excel, right? That was those guys. They didn't know internet's websites like us, right? That was the first generation of foreigners there, like kind of like the pioneers. And I was like maybe the second generation that knew like web and marketing and e-commerce. But I just felt why not? And I don't know how long I was gonna stay. So I think I said, I'll just do, you know, 6 months, see what happens. I think I booked a 6-month round return ticket. I think the most you can book a return ticket, at least whatever airline I was using, was 6 months. You couldn't book further out the return ticket. So I booked it. I booked it, and and yeah, I thought I would go back. I thought I was gonna maybe go back to America, or I was maybe go to another country after, but I stayed there.
So you were
I
based,
could go on longer, but yeah,
you were
I kept
based
staying
where
there.
the first time you were based where? In
Oh,
Shenzhen?
Shenzhen. Yeah,
Okay.
I picked Shenzhen because I was on a business visa. So I only had like a 30-day stay, and I didn't want to fly out.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of entrepreneurs like us there because of
Yeah.
that. If you noticed, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but I love your input. But I felt like in Shanghai, Beijing, the expats were more like working for companies,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
because I think it's because of the visa. They couldn't stay long term without like a work. But in Shenzhen, there was all these hustlers, maybe at least even in Guangzhou in the south, because of that, because they would just bounce to Hong Kong and bounce back,
Hong Kong
and
or
it was
Macau. Yeah.
cheap, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was tons of people like us that were like hustlers, like import, export, trader, ecom, small business owners that were like renting a decent apartment for really good rates, and you know, like that. So I picked Shenzhen mostly because of that, because of the weather.
Yeah. That's
Um,
huge too.
yeah.
So most entrepreneurs will go to China, at least back then. They started first teaching. Did you do any teaching in the beginning?
No, I mean, I had my savings, and I was already doing my own e-commerce.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I even hired somebody, Melissa, I met at the Hong Kong trade show,
Mm.
from the booth. She was like a translator at the booth, or interpreter. And I got her MSN Messenger. Remember MSN Messenger?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes.
I don't know why some people use MSN or Skype, but we talked on MSN,
Is that still
and
around?
I think it got rolled into some Skype. I think it's Skype. Microsoft merged
Oh
them or
yeah.
something. But
Yeah.
back then, of course. But no, I was also no disrespect to teachers, but I was like not interested to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, of course that's an option, but no.
Yeah, I hear you. And then another big event in your life is, how did you meet Wendy, your future wife?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit about doing tech startup. I always wanted to try to do something in China for tech.
Mm.
I'm definitely a sucker for punishment. And I went through a China accelerator program, and it was up in Dalian, which is the northeast, somewhat near Beijing. And then it was a 3-month program in 2012, where mostly foreigners were building tech companies in China, which is insane.
Mm.
And I contacted her on the Sino Weibo, or it's like a Chinese Twitter. Actually, it was my startup. We did lead generation, which was basically just like LinkedIn, right? You contacting people, mass contacting. And she worked at a mobile app company in biz dev, so she was one of my leads. And we had, actually, it was really effective strategy, because I was a foreigner. It was my personal profile, and the message was in English. It says like, "Hi, I am doing a tech startup, and I'm looking for companies in Beijing to cooperate with. I will be in Beijing from October 10th to October 13th or whatever." I'm just saying, like, it was a
Mm.
message like this: like, I'd like to arrange a meeting to cooperate with your company. I'm doing a new tech startup, etc. Because I was trying to get more guanxi, right,
Mhm.
relationships in the tech. So actually, it was a really good response rate. It sticks out because there's all Chinese people mostly on it. And yeah, she was replying, and then we met yeah, for business in Beijing in 2012. And she was really amazed that there's this crazy foreigner doing a tech company in China, like kind of like, as I was also like, not like, I wasn't like, I was a CEO, like main partner, so it was like totally crazy. And she's very supportive. And like I maybe said earlier about like girls in dating in the past that would not be supportive of my business or my work, they felt like it was a competitor to them. She
Mhm.
was the opposite. She always embraced my hard work and supported me and allowed me to do those things. And that was one part I remember about her being so supportive. And yeah, of course, we got to know each other, and she's also very independent. She was showing me her trip to, I think it was Tibet or somewhere in the Western China, and she was showing how she traveled in a group by herself. And I also like a very independent partner. I don't like people that are dependent on me, or that was another thing I had with previous women I dated, is they wanted to be like dependent on me, and she's very independent. I think too, if you maybe met her. But yeah, it's one thing I've learned about dating is learning. I told this recently at a conference because somebody was talking about dating or finding the right spouse. It's not only about what you want in a person, it's, I think, almost more important what you don't want.
Absolutely.
Because usually the breakups, the divorces or whatever is not about no matter how good the good stuff is, if there's some big bad ones that are really hard for you to accept or live with, that's the reason,
Absolutely. So how soon did the relationship move from business to dating between you guys initially?
Yeah, it was pretty fast, to be honest. I was going to Beijing quite a few times from Dalian, and back in those are the good old days of China, all right? And
Oh yeah.
when foreigners were more welcomed, at least the feeling is, but I think you and I agreed we don't feel welcome there right now.
Yeah.
So they were very welcoming and accommodating about events. And so I was coming there. It was only it was actually a train ride from Dalian, if anybody knows, but it was a train ride. I would take the China train. But yeah, I mean, within a few weeks, we really started to talk a lot on chats, and I would visit her in Beijing, and I was going to these startup events, and we had a demo day for the program in Beijing. And again, she took a day off from her work and she helped us with the booth. We had booths set up there for the people at the event, and it was really yeah, I mean, within just a month or so, we really, and then by the end of the program, what happened was I went back to Shenzhen because it's kind of where I was maybe based. And then she was trying to convince me, as well as others were saying, if you really want to do tech startup in China, you got to live in Beijing. But I didn't really want to live in Beijing. So I think a really important part was she did visit Shenzhen. And then we both decided for her to move to Shenzhen. And that, of course, is a big move. And that was like the end of 2012 or so, if I recall correctly.
So when did you realize that, hey, she's the one?
Like I said, it was pretty fast. Like even in our first meeting, because I said, she worked with the CEO of this company. She wasn't a partner, but she was like an early employee. So she saw the ups and downs of startups. She was supportive. She was also helping me, meet people. And I remember she had the photos of her trip to Tibet, and I just remember these were like, I wasn't, of course, looking for a relationship, especially in the middle of a startup, because we were so busy. But she was checking those boxes, like supportive, not like making my work competitor to her, and independent, traveling alone. Like she went to Tibet adventure. She was like, so I felt like it was very early on. I had that feeling. Like I remember seeing her too the first time and getting that kind of feeling.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, wow, what a story, Mike. And we have just barely scratched the surface. So much more we can do an entire, not just episode, but an entire season just on your experience in China. There's so much we can say about. I lived 4 years in China, 1 year in Hong Kong. You lived, how long you lived in China? Since 2007. So that's what, almost 17 years, 17, 18, a lifetime almost. Wow.
Well, I mean, there's been some Thailand now, and there was a little bit of back and forth with Philippines. I think a lot of us kind of need a China break, but yeah, I mean, I definitely haven't been in the US. I mean, I visited maybe for a few weeks at a time, but yeah, mostly China, a little bit of Thailand the last few
Yeah.
years.
You mentioned the good old days of China back in 2006, 7, 8, people being friendly, open, welcoming. I didn't experience that. My first time was in 2012 and I was blown away how people were friendly. Then I came back in 2015 as a football coach. Still, people were friendly. I was based in Hangzhou, but I can only imagine. This is one of my things, I wish I had done earlier. Go to China back in the early 2000s. It was a crazy, wild world east. I know people who've been to China at that time, and now they're telling incredible stories. They made it big in life. But it was meant to be for me. But yeah, I had a great time in China. I had an amazing time, actually. I met some really good people. And
Yeah,
honestly, I'm looking forward to going back to China as soon as it's viable again. Because I know it's still amazing
I agree.
opportunities.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, awesome.
I,
Listen, Mike, we're gonna call it here for part one. There's so much more we can do. We'll talk about and we can cover on part two. We're gonna talk about more dive deeper into China, your business, your conferences, your impact, all the good stuff. So for now, we're gonna call it a day. If someone wants to connect with you,
okay.
what's the best way to do so?
Sure. Sure. Depending if they like the personal stuff, mikesblog.com. I, I put kind of like video blogs and personal updates there. You can even dig back to some of these things I mentioned. On the business side, globalfromasia.com is the podcast and kind of business related projects I do.
And I see you have an event coming soon. We're gonna talk about that more in detail next
Yeah,
week.
cross-border summit, of course.
Give us
Yeah, I mean, depending when the
talk a
show
little
goes
bit.
online.
Tell us a little bit. What
Yeah,
is it?
November.
Okay.
Crossbordersummit.com. Yeah, it's you've been to at least one or two yourself.
Few, yeah.
It's first time in Chiang Mai. We're bringing out of China this year on November 15th, 16th, 17th here in Chiang Mai, 2023. So it'll be intense. You've been there like multiple speakers back to back, networking, after parties, like crazy amount of networking
Yeah.
and learning.
I'm currently based in Vietnam in Da Nang, so I might pop into to Chiang Mai at the time. So I'll let you know.
Well, that'd be really amazing.
Awesome. All right, brother. I salute you. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, your impact, everything you're doing. I'm looking forward to part two. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Cheers. Ciao.